why do I need a better relationship? Why do I need rapport with this person? What is it I'm trying to do? And is that all about me? Is that all about them? Is that all about an outcome? Or is it just genuinely actually rapport will help and it doesn't matter what it's about? This is a person I'm going to have to interact with, and being able to get on with them and having a sense of rapport and in the moment with them would help.
The question is from Thinking Focus.
Hi, I'm Paul.
Hi, I'm Ricky.
And the question is, what can I do to build rapport quickly?
I think you should be asking this question because, as far as I'm concerned, it's not there.
I did ask the question. It was me asking that question. How can I build rapport quickly with difficult people like Ricky? Sorry.
Well, yeah, exceptionally difficult people. I think the first question that we need to establish is why? Why do you need to build rapport at all?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. So I think that rapport, building rapport with another human being genuinely helps the conversation flow, and it allows you to have a richer, deeper, wider conversation than you can have without rapport. I mean, clearly you can go to a supermarket checkout and not build any rapport and still get your shopping. But you could go to the supermarket checkout and build really fast rapport, but at a very surface level, and have a bit of a laugh and a joke and get your shopping. But if you particularly want to work with somebody or do something a bit more deep and meaningful with somebody, then having some level of rapport, however much you might need, becomes more and more essential, because without it, there will be too much friction in the conversation. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose the example you used is, around the supermarket. Is supermarkets, from a retail standpoint, have gone transactional, haven't they? In fact, they've gone even worse. They've got you or me to do the work for them. So not only do we go around the store, collect what we want, we then put it through a scanner. So actually, the ability to have rapport, and you wonder, does that cost them in any way? Because that human connection, like you described, is, I liked having a conversation with the checkout person. Does that cost them anything?
Yeah, I mean, I suspect it does. I suspect there's probably far less loyalty now to supermarkets because, a machine is a machine and a trolley is a trolley. And, I'll be honest. I mean, going slightly off topic, I'll be honest now. My main criteria for picking the supermarket is ease of parking.
Well, or can it be delivered by a robot?
Yeah, there is that as well. But that's just, because I live in the land of robots.
But okay, let's dial this back to the workplace and the audience.
Let's finish your shopping.
But it was really interesting how, organizations are making these decisions when actually, when you think about the way we get stuff done is through connection, it's through shared purpose, it's through a common goal, whether that be my goal plus your goal equals the big goal type thing.
Yeah.
And you go, does everybody operate in that way? So, when I worked in organizations, I kind of worked out, first thing, who gives out the technology? Because if I can have a good relationship with them, I'm going to get the best laptop, I'm going to get the best phone. So that satisfied my personal needs. So that was driver number one. The second one,
I can vouch for that, by the way,
was who is going to potentially impact my ability to deliver against my goals. So as the sales engine, I knew the operational team were crucial. So, I went and built relationships with key people that I knew if I was stuck, I would be able to get it over the line. So I would invest time in them.
And that's where it gets really interesting. I mean, other than the fact that you haven't got to your own team yet, and I'm sure they were on the list somewhere, but you're starting to understand, why do I need a better relationship? Why do I need rapport with this person? What is it I'm trying to do? And is that all about me? Is that all about them? Is that all about an outcome? Or is it just genuinely, actually rapport will help and it doesn't matter what it's about? This is a person I'm going to have to interact with and being able to get on with them and having a a sense of rapport in the moment with them would help.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting how you called me out on my team, and actually in my head, my strategy was for the betterment of my team, so that when they came up against issues and challenges and may not had the opportunity to build those relationships, I could smooth that path, I could open a door, I could make connections for them to be able to do that. So mine was seen very much as, and it, I'll be honest, it was in terms of that environment that I was in, that was a selfish strategy, but ultimately everybody gained because, customers got what they needed and we got, them served, and my team were able to deliver the job, and we were able to actually build a better quality of relationship in terms of, I know what makes it life easier for you, so therefore I'm going to serve the product up in a way that I've sold that you can do your job easier.
Yeah. And so the heart of this is we build rapport with other human beings so that we can have a very fluid, open conversation to achieve an outcome, an end, whether that's to have a laugh to make the checkout slightly more pleasant, whether that's to engage as somebody who works for us to make some changes or work better or achieve some outcome, whether that's to work with a customer to buy or a team in another department to do something we need so that we can complete our goals. It's all about, how do I make this work better and more fluid by having a connection with another human being so that we can have deeper, richer conversations. And that to me starts with not talking, but listening.
Yes, absolutely, and I think that's, you can sense somebody who's trying to fake it with you really easily because they come in, they only talk about their outcomes, their agenda. I'm probably describing me in reverse now. Um, but but they're also, I don't, once I've got what I need, I'm not necessarily bothered
Yeah.
what happens. Or
I'm not
I've
interested in you. I'm interested in me
yes, and my outcomes.
and my outcomes. Whereas you meet other people who who are genuinely feel like they're interested in you and hear you and listen to what you're saying. And they may or may not be any better or any worse than the person who doesn't do that, but they make you feel heard, understood, that you have some kind of part of this process too.
So, okay, how do we go about building this rapport then? What what things can really accelerate that, assuming that we've all got positive intent, it's kind of mutual gain built in there. Um, what what would you advise? What are the sort of strategies I could improve based on my poor examples earlier?
Well, I think listening to understand is the first thing. So genuinely listening. I mean, that sort of old joke of you know, nature or God has decided the ratio of listening to talking by giving us two ears and one mouth. So, you know, listen more than you talk in these situations, because to really drive rapport, you need to understand. But listening isn't enough, because you can listen to kind of, and we've all done this. I've done this. I'm sure, Ricky, you've done this too. You get excited in your head, or you've got an agenda, or you're desperate to get certain things to happen. And you're not really listening to understand the other person. You're listening to find the gap so you can start talking, or you can get your thing in, or you can score your point or say your thing. And it's just such an easy thing to do. But if we want rapport, actually listening to understand somebody, listening in that more attentive or effective way, is really powerful. And there's some great stuff. There's a guy, I think it's Julian Treasure, who's done some TED Talks and talks about, if you want to do proper active listening, and I've tweaked it slightly. He talks about, make sure that you reflect and validate before you contribute. And I just add clarify. I think you can clarify, then reflect, then validate before you contribute.
But you think logically you go, that makes perfect sense, because if by doing that, I now know my contribution into the conversation is more purposeful, as opposed to I've latched onto the thing because I've got that sense going out that you've said something that's really interesting to me, and now I'm going to take the conversation down a particular direction because that's the narrative I want to play, um, as opposed to going, this is about the conversation. This is about us working through this together. Whatever, even if it's just, you know, becoming deeper in terms of a relationship that we've got, you know, extending the quality of relationship that we have. And we talk to salespeople all the time that says it's really hard to sell to somebody, certainly without rapport, but certainly without having a sense of what's important to them. And you
Yes.
can only do that by two things: asking great questions and listening to the responses.
But I wouldn't just say it's sales. You could change that sentence to it's really hard to manage somebody without. It's really hard to coach somebody without. It's really hard to get somebody to go out of their way and do you a favor without.
Totally
These are
fair, yeah.
these are totally essential life skills. So if you're listening well and you're hearing that person, the next question is to connect at a deeper level. And that really comes around how you ask questions, the kind of questions you ask. So most people are familiar with kind of open and closed questions. So let's play with this for a second. So you've got closed type questions. So I could go, did you go on holiday last year?
Yes.
I could do an open question. Where did you go on holiday last year?
Greece.
But neither of those questions really create connection. So what we're looking for are what are often called deep questions, questions that open up the other person's experiences, their values, their opinions, their feelings. It allows them to be themselves. It allows them to show a little bit of themselves. So if I go, so what was it about Greece that was so good, Ricky?
Well, that's really odd because it wasn't a great holiday. No, it was a great holiday. It was a beautiful place. It was lovely and warm. It was friendly. We met loads of friends, and we've even seen those friends since we got back. Um, you know, it, it was just a relaxing time, no stress.
And so straight away, you've shared some experiences and values straight away with me. And now it's in the ping pong. Because if it was just me then going, right, next question, after a while, it moves from rapport to interrogation. Yeah.
So I'm imagining you're expecting you now to give something of
I
yourself.
give something back and I can take the same question. That sounds amazing. It sounds like you had a really great place. I didn't go on holiday last year. I would have loved to have done that. It sounded like a really peaceful place. You know, we're just busy and we just had a staycation. Tell me some more about the sunshine and and straight away, you've given some of you to me. I've given some of me to you. It's relatively safe. We start with easy questions. I've started with holiday. I'm not going to go in and ask about your, well, tell me about the worst day of your life, or tell me about the time you got fired. That's too tough. That's not an opening question. You can build to that over time, I'm fairly sure, but you start light, start fluffy. But this idea of asking things that allow us to connect at a slightly different level, and then I call it ping pong. The idea that we both have to participate in that.
But I think there's an important distinction here around, you use the term deep, and it's about giving of yourself as well as, receiving something. It's not what you have with some people where they think they might be making these connections when actually I say I go to Greece and somebody goes, oh, well, we went to Dubai. So you end up in a one-upmanship conversation. That is not a deep conversation. That is not about getting to know and understand them.
No.
This is not about I've got 5 times more than you and all of those things. This is about connection, and that's comes back to what you talked about, these opinions, these feelings, these, the emotional connection that I had with being in Greece.
Yeah. So if to be really to use your analogy, I'm talking about playing ping pong. I hit the ball to you, you hit the ball to me, I hit the ball to you. That's a very different game to top trumps. I will take your Greece and up it with a Dubai.
Yes.
They're different games.
But we've been in those conversations, right?
Oh, yeah. And it's easy to do. It's really easy to do. Ironically, the time you get it wrong is not with the people you don't care about. It's the people you care about the most.
Yes.
Because you're trying to impress them. You're trying to go, but look at me. I go on holiday too, and I have great holidays, so I must be really worthy. But it's not building rapport. Because what you're trying to do here is allowing that other person to feel safe in their authentic self with you, and to become used to your authentic self. And so that creates some level of bond and connection between two human beings. And if you do that gently to start with and build it up, and it doesn't take long. You meet people who are good at this. I've worked with people. I have a friend who's actually he's not a salesperson. He's not a business person. He's just this guy who happens to be amazing at this. And I don't think he even knows. And I watch him do it some days with utter awe that he can talk to anybody. And within 5 minutes, they love him.
And that's a hell of a skill.
It's a hell of a skill. And all he's doing, he's listening really well. He's asking about their experiences. He's sharing just enough of himself to give them enough back. He's matching the pace. He's matching what they're doing. He's not oversharing or undersharing, building up the jeopardy over time, starting really safely. And he does it without even thinking. And I wish I had 10% of his skill, because it's incredible to watch.
So if we were to crystallize this then for our listeners to say, think about 3 things. What 3 things are you going to tell them when you crystallize this down? What 3 things to build rapport quickly?
Listen to understand.
Listen to understand.
Ask questions of other people that are deeper questions. Connect, allow them to talk about their experiences, their values, their opinions, their emotions or feelings. Match back the sharing. Give as much as they give you. And slowly build it up. That's 4 things, but...
Well, who's counting?
To find out how Thinking Focus can unlock the potential within your organization, go to www.thinkingfocus.com, where you'll discover more about the work we do, helping our clients increase productivity and enable change.